Good evening and thanks for joining us. Bond has been denied for the two white men who shot and killed an unarmed black man in Glynn County. WTOC crews have been in Brunswick all day following the very latest on the investigation. We begin with our Right Gas Away.
Dawn, it has been an emotional few weeks for this Glynn County community as they try to get national attention on this case. They finally did a couple of weeks ago, and now there have been two arrests made. The writing was on the wall earlier this week when the GBI took over the case, given the very public statements from the governor and the GBI director. Now, two men are in jail.
The bond in that case will be set if they hold by the Superior Court judge.
A judge officially denied bond for Gregory and Travis McMichael this afternoon. The former law enforcement officer and his son are charged in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Graphic cell phone video led to a national uproar over the case and the fact that no one had been arrested. Earlier this week, the governor and the GBI director called the prosecutor on the case and asked if they could help. Director Vic Reynolds says no amount of social media pressure led to the charges.
None of that matters to the GBI. It doesn't matter who the person is. It doesn't matter who the victim is. It doesn't matter who potential defendants are.
Reynolds says all that matters are the facts and the law. In this case, Reynolds says the video makes it clear.
We applied the law to the facts in this case and came up pretty quickly with a solid belief that there's sufficient probable cause to charge the McMichaels with felony murder and aggravated assault.
The Glynn County Police Department handled the original investigation. The agency now faces renewed scrutiny over their willingness to prosecute people in the law enforcement community. The GBI can only investigate at the request of a local agency. Some say that should have happened much sooner. Reynolds agrees.
In a perfect world, would we prefer to have been asked to become involved in February? Of course. But sometimes it isn't a perfect world. So we have to deal with the situation as it's placed in front of us.
The agency has veteran agents working this case. Reynolds did not rule out more arrests, saying this about what his agents will do when the national attention eventually subsides.
And they're staying in this community. They're going to continue to work it, and they're going to go wherever the facts take them. If, in fact, the facts take them to make another arrest in this case, then they will do that.
Dawn, there is a lot to unpack here. The GBI can only come into an investigation like this at the request of the district attorney or the investigating agency. The Glynn County Police Department never made that request. Tom Durden, the prosecutor now over this case, is the one who made that request earlier this week. In his remarks today, the director did not make it seem like the GBI is working on this case now with the Glynn County Police Department. Instead, he says they took their investigative file and essentially started over with what the Glynn County Police Department had done. It's peculiar given the fact that the GBI normally works hand in hand with the original investigating agency. While the GBI director was addressing these arrests under the Sidney Lanier Bridge this morning, friends and family of Ahmaud Arbery were gathering at the Glynn County Courthouse where they were celebrating his life and also demanding that the district attorney in Brunswick step down. Now, Amanda Aguilar was at that rally today. Amanda, what a sight there today.
Well, right, Ahmaud Arbery would have turned 26 today, and people held balloons and they had signs wishing him a happy birthday. Today was the first time for many, especially those that never got a chance to know him, to learn about the kind of person that he was. Now, we heard from friends and family. They all say Ahmaud was a respectable young man, never left anywhere without saying, "I love you." And after sharing their memories of him, they held a balloon release and loudly singing happy birthday. And I was able to speak to Arbery's cousin on the phone today. He wasn't at the rally as he's been supporting Ahmaud's parents, but he says he'd like to see his cousin's life celebrated every day, whether that's through fundraisers, scholarships, even marathons. Demetrius Frazier says he just wants positive change to happen.
Ahmaud's tragedy may not change a lot that's going on in the world, but it would be the spark to the brain that changed the world.
Now, there is another balloon release scheduled for tomorrow. That's at 1 p.m. The public is invited to that as well. That's going to be held at Sidney Lanier Park in Brunswick. Right, back to you.
Amanda, thanks for that. I, for one, was certainly impressed with the number of people there, thousands of people there outside the Glynn County Courthouse. Amanda, thanks for that. It's important to note here, there's a lengthy timeline. This shooting happened back in February, on February 23rd. Part of the reason people are so fed up is that they felt like this arrest should have happened much earlier. So the shooting happened on February 23rd. The prosecutor now on the case is a man named Tom Durden. He is in the Atlantic Circuit located there in Hinesville. He got the case on April 13th. Then fast forward to May 5th. That video leaked out early that morning. And then later that morning, Tom Durden said he would, in fact, take this case to a grand jury. That same day, the governor saw the video, the attorney general saw the video, the GBI director saw the video. All of them shared disgust at what it showed. The GBI director reached out to Tom Durden and said he wanted to be involved in the case. The district attorney then did make that formal request. Fast forward to yesterday, May 7th, and Greg and Travis McMichael were arrested by the GBI and by sheriff deputies at their home last night around 8:30, according to those arrest warrants. Now, we have gotten some more details about the second prosecutor involved here. The district attorney in Brunswick, Jackie Johnson, recused herself the day of the shooting. George Barnhill then took the case in Waycross. Jessica Savage is now breaking down that recusal letter he sent to the attorney general. Jessica, what is the AG's response, and what does that letter say when he did recuse himself?
A lot of the criticism in this case has been about District Attorney George Barnhill of the Waycross Judicial Circuit. Now, he was the DA who received the case by appointment after the DEA in Brunswick recused herself because of a conflict. Now, for the first time, we have a look at why he, too, stepped away from the case. Here's what Barnhill said in his recusal letter to the Attorney General. He has a son that works for the Brunswick DA, and unknown to him until about 3 to 4 weeks ago, his son handled a previous case that involved Ahmaud Arbery. Now, Barnhill also pointed out that Greg McMichael, one of the men who has been charged in this case, helped prosecute Arbery in a previous investigation. Now, Barnhill also said in that letter, quote, a local rabble-rouser took up the cause of Arbery and was spreading false information and calling for him to be removed from the case. And last night, in response to that public release of that letter we just read you right there, a spokesperson for Georgia's Attorney General Chris Carr sent this statement that reads in part, it has become clear to our office that the appointment should not have been accepted, and it is appropriate that he is no longer involved in the case. Now, the Attorney General has since appointed District Attorney Tom Durden in the Hinesville Judicial District. He has the case, and he is the one who requested a grand jury review and the GBI's involvement this week.
Jessica, the GBI director, a man named Vic Reynolds, was appointed by Governor Brian Kemp earlier in his tenure, and he's got a unique position. He was a prosecutor in Metro Atlanta. If there were 50 questions at that press conference this morning, I would bet 90% of them focused on that letter, the rabble-rouser statement, the fact that George Barnhill thought this shooting was justified, which Reynolds says very plainly it was not. In his opinion, it was clearly a probable cause there for a crime to have been committed. So, once again, a lot of those questions focused on that letter sent by Barnhill, but Mr. Reynolds really tiptoed around it. He refused to, I would say, straight on ridicule what Barnhill said. He said he could not speak to what Mr. Barnhill may or may not have seen, only that the evidence to him seemed to suggest there was a crime of felony murder committed here. We've got the breakdown on this website, on WTOC.com. We've got the latest in this case. We've got the information about the first